listening to the Ocean Rowing Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Painter, physical therapist and owner of Strong and Empowered Rowing. I help people continue their love of rowing without aches and pains. Along the way, I decided I wanted to row across the Atlantic Ocean. I'm finding it super hard to get in touch with previous ocean rowers and find the answers on how to make this possible. So this podcast is to share my story and what I learn as I get ready for and ultimately cross the Atlantic Ocean. Hear from experts in different areas and from others who have completed ocean rows. So anyone who wants to do this has easy access and we can share our stories with the world. Welcome to episode 6 of the Ocean Rowing Podcast. My name's Amanda Painter and I am your host, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about where I am on my journey and what I've been up to over the past couple of weeks. So I've actually interviewed quite a few people who are going to be on the Ocean Rowing Podcast coming up. So I've already interviewed Pete Rhodes, Tim Kropke came out last week, I've got Kelda Wood coming in a couple of weeks, and actually just the other day, I also interviewed Justin Coleman. So I'm really excited. We've got some great podcasts coming up, and I really hope you're as excited as I am. So where I am on my journey, because this is a short update episode for you guys. One, I'm getting really comfortable with this wonderful intro of I'm going to row solo across the Atlantic Ocean in December of 2022. It just kind of rolls off the tongue now. The more I say it, the more I know it's happening. So big thing for me recently was actually that I went to Florida and I was at a conference and I was there for a week and we were staying on the ocean. We actually weren't facing the Atlantic Ocean. We were on the west side, but pretty darn close. So it was basically coastal. And I had some realizations while I was there, things that didn't really cross my brain until I was there. So I'm going to kind of share some of those fears and some of those things that kind of crossed my brain while I was there, and why not document it, basically. So when I arrived, I was like, oh, great, ocean, just kind of thought my normal things. But it's kind of interesting because I live in Denver, and Denver is landlocked. So Denver, Colorado, middle of the U.S., there's no ocean near me. I grew up actually a little bit in Florida. I also lived in California, and I've been to the ocean tons of times. I've swam in the ocean. I am a very strong swimmer, so I'm not scared of the ocean. But this was the first time in my entire life that I've looked at the ocean and had fear. And that's powerful. It's also scary. So I basically went out at night and went for just a walk along the beach with a friend, and I just looked out and I saw darkness. And I was trying so hard to kind of put my hands in a way where it would make it so that I couldn't see the light from the land behind me, but clearly there's no way to block that light out. So there's no way to make the ocean as dark as I could possibly imagine it. So I was trying to imagine it as dark as I possibly could, just to kind of get myself in the headspace of when I am in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. You have the moon, but people talk about, when you read their books, they mention that they can only see like 10 feet in front of them or 5 feet, and you hear waves and you hear crashing down and you hear animals and you think it's a whale or a shark that's about to attack you and all these things. And I pretty much, that began my fear component. Reading in the books was fine. Knowing that it existed as a possibility was fine. But seeing how dark the ocean could actually be, and knowing that it would be 60 to 100 days. So I'm planning 60 to 100 days that it will take me, 100 worst case. And it kind of got to me. It was a little scary. So every night I went and spent 10 minutes or more just sitting on the ocean, not sitting on the ocean, sitting on the beach looking at the ocean by myself, and just kind of coming to peace and trying to ease that discomfort a little bit. So luckily I have time before I go out. I have almost about 3.5 years now, and I have time to be able to work on that. And so I considered it a developmental process for me. And I would go out and I would just stare at the ocean and just think and be in my own headspace. And I think that was good. On the last day that I was in Florida, I also made it a goal where I actually don't really go in the water much anymore. I'm not a fan of the water. It's actually funny. I want to cross the Atlantic Ocean and I hate the ocean. Yes, you heard it. I hate the ocean. I love listening to the ocean. I love watching the ocean. I hate the beach. I hate sand. I hate people at the beach. And I just don't have a desire to go in. And maybe I don't want to go in because people are there. I don't really know. But I made it a goal of mine where I went into the water. And then that was kind of my first goal. And when I got into the water, I was just kind of trying to look out to the ocean. And from there, after about 4 or 5 minutes of the waves crashing down on me, I decided, it just kind of happened. I didn't even decide. It just felt like I needed to. And all of a sudden I was swimming out into the ocean. And again, I'm a good swimmer, so no fear of swimming. And I started swimming and I got out there and I got to a point where there were less people around me. There was a guy to my left and it looked like he was standing. So I put my feet down. I'm like, okay, well, I can reach my tippy toes. On my tippy toes, I'm there, but I was like, wow, okay, he can still stand here. And I actually made a comment to him like, hey, you can stand? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm short. I'm only 5'3". But from there, that kind of made it my next goal. So I decided to swim a little bit more. And I wanted to have where my feet were not on the floor, on the bottom of the ocean, and kind of pretending that there's miles and miles of ocean underneath me, because that's what's going to happen. So for those of you who don't know, when you're in the middle of the ocean, your boat will accumulate basically some hitchhikers, some barnacles and things there. So there will be some growth on the bottom of your boat. And you actually have to get in your boat about once a week. I don't know if it's a little more, a little less, and depending on the circumstances of weather. But you have to get out and clean the bottom of your boat. When you are with somebody, you have somebody looking for sharks and whatnot. When you're by yourself, you just kind of have to dive in. And you have to, something that you pretty much need to do so that you don't lose too much speed, because it can actually build up and you'll be slower and slower. And that was just something that I felt I needed to do. I turned around, I came back in, and that was my experience. So that's how I pretty much started this past weekish. I started to come to terms with some fears that I didn't know were there, that I apparently now have as I look at the ocean. So maybe waiting 4 years is a bad thing because it's giving me time to accumulate fears. But either way, I am still doing this. I am 100% in, and those are some things that I'm going to work through. And just know that you can be scared. It's okay. It almost makes it better because I am scared, but that adds to what I'm going to overcome when I do this. I am doing this for other reasons, but going and conquering a fear is also a great motivator and a great thing to get out of it. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. That's kind of where I'm at. I've got some other interviews coming up. I have also decided my boat will be put on hold. So I interviewed Pete Rhodes, who is going to be building his boat, he is building his boat, and he will be crossing in May of next year, May 2020. And I kind of want to see him come back before I start working on my boat. So that's not quite a step I'm taking yet. But pretty much right now, it's mindset, working on that, and reading as many books as I can, and I will give you an update on the next episode, but that's where I'm at now. And I hope you enjoy. I hope you stay tuned for these interviews that I have coming, which are amazing. There's so much information coming from them, and I hope you enjoy.